ways, what are the different categories or different types of files you need to read for the web. So first thing, we started working with the text files. Yeah, good morning, Nagaraja. So we started working with the text files. Okay, so we learned that first thing, what you do is opening a file. Okay, so you open a file. So to open the file, okay, what you do is you use a open function which takes two parameters: the name of the file and the mode of the file. Okay, the name of the file is can be the direct name, or it can be the path. Okay, so you can mention the name of the file here. So the mode is by default a read mode. It's optional, like if you don't mention, it will always open the file in the read mode. One required parameter what you will be passing here is the name of the file. And what open function will do, it will open that, or it will create a file object and open the file, and that reference to that file will be returned. Okay, the file address will be written, the object address will be written, and fr will be referring to that file object. And what file object contains? The file object contains the file information, like name of the file, okay, the mode of the file, the readability, whether it is readable or not, whether it is writable or not. Okay, so all this information about the file is present. Then we finally talked about the mode, different modes. Okay, like read mode, which is a default one. We talked about like what happens, like file, when you open the read mode, file should be present, otherwise it will get file not found error. So whenever you're opening any file in the read mode, the file should exist. Present in the sense it should exist. Otherwise you will be getting file not found error kind of thing, right? So it should be present here. Okay, file cursor will be pointing at the beginning of the file, and file cursor will be at the beginning of the file. If you open for the right purpose, it checks for the file availability. If exist, then erase the data, and file cursor will be point to the beginning of the file. Okay, so it erases the data and it will be pointing. So you need to be careful while opening the write mode, because the file data will be erased. It will always open a new file for it, so that you need to check. If the file is not, if not, it will create a new empty file. It will not give file not found error. At least if it is not available, it will simply create a new file out of it. Then we learn that A is an append. It opens an existing file without erasing the data, and the file cursor will be pointing at the end of the file. So it will open the existing file and without erasing the data. So same like write, the only thing is it will not erase the data, and the file cursor will be pointing to the end of the file, so that you can start appending and adding new data to that. Okay, that way you create it. Now X will always, there's a special mode we discussed, that it's always creates a new file. Okay, if the file exists, it will give an error. So that's why if the other things will give an error if the file does not exist. This is little opposite. It will give an error when the file exists actually, and it will always create a new file. And one of the application we talked about is a log files, where every day we wanted to create a new file to store the information about log in and log out of your application. So that way I can create a log file for every day. If the file already available, I must get an error. So always it should create a new file out of it, something based on the date format and all. They will be creating a new file here now. So that way, these are the modes. Even I told you there are some modes like R plus, W plus, A plus, which use for read plus write. And similarly, we have for binary file as well. This is for the text file, but we do have a binary file. For binary file as well, we do have this different types of modes actually. So this thing we talked about the mode. Next thing, let us talk about, okay, the next thing. Okay, let me just select it here. Okay, okay. Next, let us talk about something like closing of the file. We have to talk about reading and writing of the file, but before that, let us spend some time, 15 minutes, so that we can understand how to close a file actually. Okay, closing a file. Closing a file. So how you are going to close a file, and what is the importance of closing the file? So how to close the file is very simple. If you wanted to close a file, okay, if you wanted to close a file, then you will be using this syntax. Okay, you will be using this syntax like f dot close. or fr dot close. So you will be closing the file something like this. Okay, you will be closing the file something like this now. So you say fr dot close will close the file. But we wanted to learn like what is an importance of closing the file. Okay, and we will be spending some time understanding the what things may happen during the closing of the file, that we are going to talk about it. So basically one thing I would like to tell you what is an importance of closing of the file first. Okay, then we'll go and talk about what will happen if you forget to close the file. Basically once you're done with reading and writing of the file, like you open the file, okay, for some mode, and then you perform all operation, like whether you can read the data, you can write the data into the file, and you can add the new data into the file. So once you're done with the operations, then we need to make sure that you close the file. Okay, we will need to make sure that you close the file. If you forget to close the file, then what things may happen is it can be misused. Your data can be misused if you forget to close the file. Okay, whatever the resources you will be using in your file, in your program, whether it can be a file, whether it can be a database, or whether it can be network, or whatever may be the resources you will be using. Okay, you need to close this file, you need to close that file mandatory, because if you forget to close that file, the resources will kept open and it can be misused, it can be misused. So what happens, like for example you went to ATM machine and you insert the card, you insert the pin number, okay, and then what you do, you perform the transaction, and you for example the program has been written in such a way that they are not closing or they are not releasing the database. Then what happens that the database can be accessed by the other people as well, like maybe the bank people, or maybe the next other people comes in, can access your database and can access your account details as well, like they can add amount, they can reduce the amendments, they can withdraw the amount, and all will be very dangerous. So that's why the releasing of the resources is very very important. The releasing of the resources very very important. Sometimes what happens, if you do not release the things may not be written properly as well. Like for example, I'll just get to my PyCharm. Okay, okay, so let's get started with. Uh, like the session does not time out, yeah, kind of thing. That's true, Udit. Okay, now for example, I wanted to write something into the file. I wanted to write something into the file now, right? So I just created suppose abc.txt for the write purpose. I created that abc.txt for the write purpose. So I open this abc.txt and I wanted to write something here now. Okay, I wanted to write something here, like what I wanted to write, I wanted to say hello everyone. Okay, so I will just say that fr dot, we have a method called write, okay, to write that content into the file. Then I will write something here called hello everyone. Hello everyone. Okay, so that will I will write it now. Now let's run the code and see what will happen. So when I run the code now, okay, it prints nothing onto the output screen because I'm writing onto the file now. Okay, when I just go back and open the file, it has come as hello everyone. It has come as hello everyone. But sometimes what happen, as it is in the PyCharm, so PyCharm is taking care of that. Okay, but generally what happens that hello everyone will not be written. Let me show you with our IDLE. Let me show you with our IDLE. Same program if I write in IDLE, and then let's see what will happen now. Okay, let's see what will happen. So here I will open the script. Okay, from the desktop I will open the script. Let's open the same thing called demo. Oh, we have already a big file out of it. So let's try for the other one. Okay, we have something called Prasad. Fine. So there is something called Prasad, and we have print hello world. Okay, so let it be. I wanted to write this hello world, suppose. I wanted to write this hello world. Okay, and I wanted to write in fr dot write. Okay, I will open this file first of all. So I'll say fr is equal to open that. Okay, prasad, prasad dot txt. Oh, I will be opening abc dot txt, and I wanted to open this for write purpose. I want to open this for write purpose now. So let's run this code now. Okay, when I run this code, output is nothing. But when I go to file called Prasad, okay, there is something called Prasad is not here. Okay, it's not here. But let us run the code, it will create, right? Let us run the code, it will create, but it did not create it. Yeah, sorry, ABC. It was ABC, sorry. Now when I open this ABC file, you find nothing actually. Yeah, thank you, Satyam. Thank you, Uday. Thank you, Venkat. That ABC I have opened it, but you find that there is nothing in that ABC. Okay, there is nothing in that ABC actually. Okay, because the reason is it has been created a file, but things has not been written properly. Things has been not written properly because PyCharm at least they are taking care of automatically. But here you need to close the file. The problem here is closing of the file. The problem here is closing of the file, because if you didn't close it properly, that's why it's not writing the things properly. Okay, so until unless you don't close them, things will not concluded now. So now it is very important that you close the file. It's very important that you close the file. Now you run the code. Okay, prints nothing onto the output screen, but at least now if you go back and check that abc.txt, you will find hello world inside that abc. What is the change I did? Only I added that closing of the file. Only I added the close of the file. So that's why it's so important to perform the operation as well. You're writing something, you're reading something, or you're appending something into a file. If you forget to close the file, even that things may not work properly, that it will not write the data properly. This is one of the problem we will be facing with the closing of the file. So it is mandatory that you should close the file at the end. Once you perform reading and writing operation, now at the end of the file, it is your responsibility to release the file, release that resources. Not only with Python, any programming language, if you are using any resources, then it is your responsibility that you should release that resource as well. It is your responsibility that you should release that resource. Any question regarding closing of the file? Okay, Nitin says no question. Ubul, no question. Okay, Satyam, Snehal, Vishwajit. Okay, Aditi says no question. Okay, fine. Okay, thank you everyone. So, but I will put one question. Okay, I'll be putting one question. Question, no problem. You can understand from now. Okay, so let us go here and talk about one question. Okay, suppose Nagaraja says any type of data. Sorry, Nagaraja, I didn't get it. Like, what is mean by any type of data here? Arithmetic. Yeah. You mean to say that data can be any type? Yes. You can store any data. It's not about like a string. You can store integer data. You can store float or list, tuple, whatever you wanted to store. You can store it. Any type of data, you can store it in the file. It's a plain text file. It can store any type of data. As you know that Notepad can store any type of data, so you can store any type of data here. It's not a problem. Okay. Now the next thing I would like to talk about here is, it's okay, I'm writing something and closing something into the file. Yeah, any type of data can be stored. That's true, Vishwajit. But I would like to talk about little bit in detail about close. We haven't concluded close yet. We have to talk something else about the close operation. Okay, what we will be talking about here is, suppose what happens something may go wrong, okay, something may go wrong before the file gets closed. Before the file gets closed, something may happen wrong. Like for example, I wanted to write hello everyone. I wanted to write hello everyone. For example, I'll be printing something. Okay, printing something. Let's say before something. Okay, before something I want to print before that. And what happens during the program? There is a very important thing we will be introducing now. Is called the exception. So basically, what happens that something may go wrong unexpectedly before the file gets closed. Before the file gets closed, something may happen unexpectedly. Like for example, something I printed before. Now I would like to print something here, which is 1 divided by 0, which is an exception called divide by 0 exception. Divide by 0 exception. And you wanted to write something into the file and you wanted to close the file. You wanted to close the file. But now the question is, okay, you're opening a file. Okay, you will be printing something before, so that gets printed. After that exception, okay, nothing gets printed. Okay, nothing gets printed now. So I can say instead of before something, I can say before exception. Before exception gets printed, but you will notice that after exception will not be printed and hello everyone will not be printed, because the thing is, whenever the exception comes, whenever the exception comes in a program, the program will terminate from there and all the remaining statements will not get executed. Meaning after exception will not be printed, hello everyone will not be written into a file, and the file will not get closed. All these things will not happen. So your file uh, gets open. Okay, file gets open. Whether you wanted to open for read or write, whatever, the file keeps open even though you are closing it manually. But something may happen that your file did not get closed. Something may happen that your file will not get closed, because if I run this program now, you see that it prints you before exception, but once the exception comes, it came out directly. Now you go and check the file of ABC, there is nothing in the file ABC, and the file did not get closed. It is okay if you are opening for the write purpose. What if you are opening for the read purpose? What if you want to open for the read purpose, the file kept open? The file kept open, you're not writing anything, but the file kept open now. So something may misuse your file, because we learn the importance of closing the file, but we also learn that something may happen during the closing of the file, means before the close of the file, so your file gets open. So how to overcome this problem? To overcome this problem, there are two options actually. Okay, there are two options, meaning that if something goes wrong, okay, before the closing of file, if something goes wrong before the closing of the file, if the file kept empty, if the file kept empty, then what you can do is you can close that. What to do with that? Whenever the exception comes and you forgot to close the file and all, you can close the file manually. Okay, you can close the file manually. So how can you do that? How you deal with that exception actually? How you deal with that exception? There are two ways actually. One way is you can handle that exception. One way is you can handle that exception. Like before closing of the file, if something goes wrong, okay, like exception, then you can handle that exception. So first thing, let me talk about how to deal with that exception. How to deal with that exception, okay, or how to close the file. Okay, I will write directly these things. There are two things. One is I can use exception handling now. I can use exception handling. Okay, I can use exception handling. And what is meant by exception handling here is that you will take care of that exception. Okay, you will handle that exception. So how to handle that exception in Python? To handle the exception in Python, we have these two keywords. One is called try keyword, okay, and the other one is called except keyword, and then we have something called finally. Finally, okay. So these are the three keywords available to you. Other than that, we also have else keyword and throw keyword. We'll talk about it, but these are basically these are the three keywords we will use to handle the exception, called try block, except block and finally block. Okay, try block, except block and finally block. What is a try block here? Inside the try block, we will write, okay, inside the try block, we will write the risky code. Inside the try block, we will write the risky code. Risky code means the code which will actually gives you the error. Okay, risky code will actually the code which will give you an error. Okay, that is generally called it as a risky code. So all the risky codes has to be written inside the try block. All the risky code has to be written inside the try block now, because it will generate a exception. So you will be writing inside the try block. Okay, so once it generates an exception, it will go to the except block for handling the exception. Here you will write the code for handling the exception. Okay, for handling the exception, but we are not interested right now for handling the exception. Our interest is the finally block. Our interest is the finally block, because the importance of finally block is to release the resources. Here we will release resources. Whatever the resources you have written, that will get released the resources in the finally block, because the way they have designed the finally block is get executed in all the circumstances, whether the exception come or exception does not come, whatever, the finally block will get executed. So finally block specially created for releasing the resources, meaning closing of the file, closing of the database, so all this kind of resources can be released in the finally block, because finally blocks gives you a guarantee that it will get executed in all the circumstances. It will get executed in all the circumstances now. So that's what the finally block gets introduced now. Now let us see that how to take care of this problem now. So that whatever you wanted to write it, that gets written as well. Okay, and also hello everyone gets written, and after exception also gets printed. That's what we wanted to take care now. Now you see here what happens now, that I will write this in a try block. I'll write this in a try block. This is how you write the try block now. This is how you write the try block here. So after try block, see, one thing is very clear, that finally block cannot be written alone. So finally block should come either after exception, or try except finally can be written, or try finally and try except can be written. So try cannot be alone. Try except should be a combination. Try finally should be a combination, and try except and finally should be a combination. Directly you cannot write except and finally without try. That's why it's giving an error that after try there must be things happen, that closing of the file and everything should happen. Okay, so what I can do is I can put it in the try block after exception and writing the things into an exception. And what I can do is I can write this in a finally block. I can write this in a finally block. So file gets closed now. File gets closed. Okay, let us see whether it is get closed or not. So I will be printing something called fr.closed. fr.closed. So that will print true to show you that file is closed or not. That way you can check whether the file is closed or not. Let me run the program now, how it will execute. First line gets execute now. Okay, abc.txt, and the write mode it will open before exception gets printed. Now it gets into the try block, the exception comes here. So after that it will not execute anything. So after exception will not be printed. Hello everyone will also not be printed, but it will make sure that finally block gets executed and file will get closed. So you will be getting printed true saying that file closed. Okay, I can write a sentence here, file closed. Okay, is file closed? I can print true. Is file closed? Then I can print true that yes, file is closed. Okay, now let's run the code now. Let's run the code and see the output as we expected. Now what happens? Before exception is getting printed, okay, something went wrong, zero division except error is coming, and it's printing is file closed? Yes, true. File is closed. So it's at least closing my file now. Okay, it's closing my file. Let me check with the error. Meantime, you go through with this program. Okay, so Aditi says if we know that something will result in the exception, then why to write that what will except do? Okay, we'll talk about what will except do in the moment. But Aditi, actually we don't know actually here the exception comes or not. Okay, suppose I have written a divided by b, and I'm reading this a and b from the user. I'll be reading this A and B from the user. So this time I may not be knowing what will be the A value and what will be the B value. So that may result to an exception. I have written directly here, but it is not like generally directly. It will be like comes from the user sometimes. I wrote 1 by 0 directly here now. So how we know this? See, while writing a program, you can predict the exceptions, Nagaraja. I'll take some examples to make you understand. So we are using try, uh, then why give zero division error in the last? Because try, Satyam, means not handling the exception. That's what I told you. If you see our statements here, in the try block, we generally write the risky code. Try doesn't mean that you handle the exception. Okay, but what I wanted to prove you, even the exception comes the finally getting executed. Is that clear for everyone? First thing, yes. Basically, we are just not catching the exception. Actually, we're just saying that there is an exception comes, but make sure it finally gets executed. Okay, thank you, Satyam. Thank you, Vamshi. Thank you, Aditi. Let me also check is anybody having any questions so that I can answer all your questions at once so that I can go for the next topic. Output, yeah, I'll show the output once. Okay, yeah, no doubt. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Nitin. So, no doubt. After exception part, we can write its finally block as well. Yes. Okay, after exception part, we can write in finally block as well so that it will get printed. Yes, that's true. But finally block, we will not write everything in finally block, Aditi. Finally block is specially meant for releasing the resources. It's not to printing everything inside the finally block. Finally block should not be very clumsy. Writing everything inside the finally block, like having 100 lines of code in the finally block, will not be good. Okay, will not be a good. So finally block is specially meant for cleaning the resources or releasing the resources. So it should be always talking about closing of the file and everyone. Yeah, hello everyone should have been printed, but nothing is happening. Even after exception is not getting printed and this is not getting printed. Error shows always in the last. See, it's not like that. It prints it and error gets printed. So generally error gets printed at the end only. That's true, Satyam. Correctly pointed out, because after performing try will happen. Okay, this error comes. So it will go to the finally, close the resources, and then program terminates by printing the exception. Is it necessary that we are write finally block for every program? Yes, Rajshekhar. It's always important that for every program you must be taking care of exceptions generally. If you're taking, if you're opening any resources, Rajshekhar, then it's important that you close the file or you write the finally block. Finally block is specially meant for releasing the resources. So if you're opening any resources, then it will be releasing the resources is mandatory. I hope I have answered your question. Yeah, the process finish with the code 1 means your file did not end up properly, Vamshi. It has written the error code as 1. It has been written error code as 1. So that way we will come to know that there is something went wrong. The file did not close proper. Sorry, the program did not terminate it properly. So finally tells what to do if an exception comes. No. Okay, finally tells that, okay, whatever the exception comes, you please execute these instructions compulsory. That's what finally means. Finally does not say what to do if the exception comes. Okay, finally just say that please execute this line compulsory whether the exception comes or does not come. Yes, yes. Okay. Now let's talk about a couple of questions. Like Aditi was first asked question after exception part. Why? Okay. Why it's not getting executed? Okay, that was a question. And Satyam says we are using try. Then why keep zero division error in the last? Okay. That's what the question from Satyam. So let me try to answer these things. Try except finally used in every error purpose. Yes, most of the program you need to write this try except and finally you must be writing exception handling. Let me take you some examples here to deal with exceptions. Okay, let me take you some examples to understand why it is important for every program to write that exception handling. So every program must be taking care of exception, guys. It's not about in this program. For every program, you must write that exception handling. For example, even in real time, we do a lot. We do handle exceptions a lot. Okay, let me come back. So finally, is not reference to try block. Yeah, it's reference to try block. If try does not catch the exception, finally will still work. Yes, it's associated with the try block with it. Because you cannot write finally alone. You cannot write finally alone. It's associated with the try block, but it is not related with anything. Like it's not about handling the exception actually. That's what I can say. Is it possible to use more than one finally block in our program? No, it's not possible to use more than one finally block in our program. Okay, why to use? Because all the resources you can use it in one finally. There is no use of having finally after that, because finally must be followed by try. Finally cannot be followed by finally and all. Okay, so let's talk about something here. We come across this concept like exception in our daily life as well. Exception in daily life. Exception in daily life. I'll talk about very important circumstance. Like I'll talk about the exam. During exam, during examination, you'll get a lot of exceptions actually. You'll get a lot of exceptions during examination. What are the exceptions you may expect during examination? During examination, you may get an exception called hall ticket. Hall ticket not found, not found error. Do you agree that we may get this very common error called hall ticket not found error during exam? You went to the exam and the examiner asks you to show the hall ticket, and you'll get this error called hall ticket not found. Okay, this is a very common error. Okay, other error, pen not working error. Pen not working error. This is another common error we will get. That we start writing the exam, but we realize that pen is not working. Okay, pen is not working. Out of syllabus error. Out of syllabus error. Yeah, exam got postponed or question paper given late. Yeah, all these kind of are the exceptions, Aditi. That's true. Okay, these are called exceptions actually. Okay, suppose you started, it's not only during the exam hall. When you started from home, especially during exams, you will get a lot of exceptions generally. During exams especially, you'll get a lot of exception, especially with boys when they started from home. Suppose they're traveling in a bike, and they will be getting an exception called petrol no petrol error. Okay, this is a very common exception. Puncture exception. Okay, tire got puncture error, so tire will get puncture. So a lot of exceptions come across especially during exam. Okay, because you're little worried and you're all these things, so generally you will find this kind of exceptions during exam and all very frequently, right? But in real life you get this exception, but you will take care of this exception also. You will handle this exception because you can predict all these exceptions, guys. Okay, you can predict all these exceptions. SK will talk about error and exception in detail, but generally exceptions are which we can be handled, but errors are the one which cannot be handled, which cannot be taken care. That is generally called it as an error. Okay, like you get something like what I can say, file system error. Okay, that is one error, and network issue is another error. So this is a kind of error, memory out of memory or memory full error. So these are the errors which admin has to be taken care manually. We cannot write the logic to handle that exception, handle that error, but exceptions can be handled by the program. Exceptions can be handled by the program. Now what you do is, it's not about finally block here. Okay, but we will make sure that we will handle that exception. It's these examples are not for taking care of finally block. We already learned about the finally block, but what is actually mean by handling this exception? So how you handle these exceptions, guys? How you handle this hall ticket not found exception? Suppose you get this exception, a hall ticket not found. How you will handle this exception? Come on, in daily life, I'm saying we contact exam hall, okay, Aditi, to get another. But generally, Aditi, do you agree that you will predict these exceptions actually? And you will, before hall ticket will get lost, you'll take care of it. Very good, Nitin. You'll make a Xerox copy of that, right? You'll make a Xerox copy of that. Why you will make that Xerox copy? Why you will make that Xerox copy of that hall ticket? Is that because you will definitely going to lose it? That's why you will take a Xerox copy? No, right? It's not like you're going to lose that. Yeah. Okay, not that case. Worst case scenario. Very good with it. If exception comes, that's what your program should be always. I hope you understood about with this example, you got to know that whenever you're writing the program, some exceptions can be predicted, guys. Some exceptions can be predicted. Okay, and those exceptions has to be handled. Those exceptions has to be handled in your program. If you do not handle that exceptions, your program will be terminated abnormally and things will not work fine. So that's why your program should take care of exceptions. In short, your program should take care of exception. Like you may lose or not lose hall ticket. That depends on exception, but you will take a Xerox copy. Whether pen will be working or not, you will have always extra pens. You'll carry extra pens at your exam because you may come across this exception called pen not working error. Either you carry your extra pen or you will be asking extra pen with your friends. So that way you will tackle this exception. Out of syllabus exception. You know what happen, what to do when something comes out of syllabus, when the paper comes late. Okay, there are other exceptions like invigilator sleeping exception, invigilator not found error. Some kind of exceptions may come. You know how to deal with those exceptions. Okay, like if petrol will not be there, then you will carry some extra petrol. If petrol gets over, you'll carry some extra petrol in bottle or something so that you can take care of that exception. Okay, like for especially when you're traveling in a car, you'll have a stepney. What is the use of that stepney? Because you know that when the exception comes, puncture, and you don't find any person to fix it, then at least you will have a stepney so that you can fix that thing. So that way, these are all called exception handling actually. Getting my point, everyone? What is mean by exception and how to handle that exception means you need to handle that exception. Let me check whether your doubts got clear. That's true, Aditi. Okay, so invigilator sleeping exception is delight for everyone. We don't want and handle exception for that. Yeah, so handling exception means actually you can start copying now, right? That's what the exception handling. So it can be an exception, but you know how to handle it. Make sure that he will not wake up is also an exception handling, Aditi. Also, we can carry cheat sheets to the exam. Okay, that's true. Then. Okay, that's what like a kind of exception handling and all. So for this kind of programs, also you need to handle that exception. But we haven't learned about handling the exception because I wanted to prove you that whether you handle or not, the finally gets executed. That's what my intention first of all. Did you all agree that finally was getting executed in any circumstances first of all? And you also got to know where to close the file. Now, in simply, if I ask you where to close the file, then your answer will be in finally block. Okay, where to close the file, then your answer will be in the finally block because it is safe. It is safe. Why it is safe? Even the exception comes, does not come, whether the exception handle, does not handle, in any circumstances, finally will get executed. Okay, finally will get executed now. Yeah, that's what it is, get 100% executed in any circumstances, it will get executed. That's what finally. Now how to handle this exception is also important. How to handle this exception is, we wanted this to be printed compulsory. Even if I write outside this block, do you think it gets printed now? Do you think it gets printed now? I wrote after the finally block now. What do you think, Satyam, Upul? Okay, Venkat thinks no. All exceptions cannot be predicted can we update exceptions? Yes, you can have user-defined exceptions also, Rajshekhar. Okay, that's called user-defined exceptions. But Python people has predicted few exceptions and they have kept those classes for you. Okay, but that's true. All the exceptions can be predicted, Rajshekhar. It's not like exceptions cannot be predicted. So Vishwajit thinks that it will not get printed. Snehal thinks that it will not get printed. Vamshi thinks it will get printed. But guys, that's true that after exception, nothing gets executed except the finally block. Yeah, very good, Upal. Finally block only gets executed, nothing else. So this program also results the same. This program also results the same output. You see, before exception, is file closed? Yes, true. File is getting closed, no doubt, but that is not getting printed now. So even though I have written after this thing, it will not get printed. It's not about try block. It's nothing gets printed after exception. Yes, we can also change the exception here. I will change the exception, but let us see how to handle this exception. To handle this exception, you must have an except block. I told you except block is used for handling the exception. Okay, except block is used for handling the exception. So if you want to handle that exception, you can use except block. I simply print that one now. Print that error, whatever I'm getting, I will write that error now. I'll write that error. What is that error? I'll say zero division error as E. So that's what I got an object exception in E. I'll be printing it. Now perfectly okay. This program I'm handling the exception as well. I'm not handling actually. I'm just printing an error message at least. Like you go to ATM machine when any exception comes, that card not working is an exception, right? Out of like amount or whatever. Okay, there is no amount available in the ATM machine. These are all exceptions actually. These are all exceptions, right? So they handle that exception. At least they'll print the message that card not working. Please contact your branch people, or out of like fund or whatever. They get printed, right? So now you're handling the exception. So the file gets open, and before exception also gets printed. And here division by zero exception comes. So after try, you will directly go to the except block. And once the except block gets printed, believe me, your program will be executed normally. Your program will be executed normally. It will go to finally block. Okay, but finally block gets executed at the end. That was very important. Now you see, when I run this program, things will work fine now this time. Okay, things will work fine, but the file get closed actually. That's what happening. The file got closed. That's why we're not able to write it, but at least I will print after exception. Now you see this time things are working fine. I did not got anything now. You see, before exception got printed, zero division error. How it's coming now? That's because of you're handling the exception. Is file gets closed? Yes, true. File is getting closed, and after exception is also getting printed. So this is a perfect program, even though the exception is coming, but exception has been handled. Exception has been handled. Got my point, everyone? How to handle the exception? Any questions now? Except Roshan says that can we change the exception, or instead of changing the exception, Roshan, I will add one more exception. I will add one more exception here. For example, before this exception, you got created an empty list. You got created an empty list. There is nothing in that empty list. You're trying to print that list, first element from the list now. This exception is called index out of range. This exception called index out of range now. No doubt you handled this exception, but you did not handle this exception. Okay, you did not handle this exception. Now what happens? Again the same problem. Again the same problem. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll create 1, 2, 3, and I'll try to print the fourth element or third element. Let's see what happens now. When I run this code now, oh, fine. It's okay. Okay, this line is not getting executed, right? This line is not getting executed. Yeah. After exception, nothing gets executed. Now let's write before that exception. Now this exception is coming first. Now what happens? That that exception comes. That this time index error is coming. You see which error is coming now? Index error is coming, and that index is not handled. So list index out of range is coming, and that coming out of it now. So that way again this exception is not handled. So you can have multiple except now. You can have multiple except. When multiple exceptions can be predicted, you can have multiple except now. You can say index error as E again, and you can print that E. So this way I'm handling the index error also. I'm handling that index error also. Now I'll run the code and you can see that things are working fine. This time I got list index out of range. Yes, we can have multiple except for single try. That's true. That's true, Mahipal. We can have multiple except for a single try. When except is getting executed, then also is finally block needed. Yes, finally block is needed in our program, especially Krishna, because our finally block is for closing of the file. Okay, closing of the file should be go in finally block. I cannot try block and except block, right? Because try block, you know that after exception nothing gets printed. Yeah, because once the first exception comes, the remaining statements will not get printed, Aditi. That's why zero division error will not come. Only one exception will come, not more than that. Any one exception can occur, but any one of can occur. Any one of can occur. If suppose I printed 2, so here it's not getting an exception. So first thing gets printed fine, but I got zero division error. So that's what exception is comes at runtime. I'm just showing you directly here, but generally it comes at runtime. So Vamshi says that if you have multiple exception block, only one exception block will execute. Yes, Vamshi, that's true. And let me check any other question. I hope Roshan, you understood that I changed the exception. So now you need to handle that exception as well. And you understood about the finally block as well. Got my point, everyone? Okay, you learn a little bit about exception today, but mostly it's important about closing the file. Sir, we want to certain exceptions to get executed. How to do that? Like Aditi, sorry, if you can take example. Yes, only first exception get accepted. Very good. Aditi, will you please elaborate and can explain with some example? Now I'll show you the second thing. Second thing is handling the exception is the first thing. Second thing is actually, second thing about that is you can also use which statement. You can also use which statement to take care of that kind of thing, closing of the file. We are not naming this exception SK. These are actually predefined exceptions. So you should be knowing what kind of exceptions may come. Zero division error comes when you try to divide with zero. Index error will come when you try to go out of the index. Value error will come when you try to give a wrong value. So these are the exceptions predicted, and we should learn those exceptions. And as I told you, if something else, we can also define user defined exception also. Okay, we will learn how to write user defined exception. Okay, thank you Aditi for typing so big text. So like here we had zero division error and index error. If you want zero division error to be considered for printing or executed, how to do that purposely? Zero division error to be considered for printing. Okay, then like it doesn't like that. It's not in your thing, Aditi. Like whichever the exception comes, that gets executed. It's not like you can say, okay, only this exception should be come and all. That is not your hand, but you can write the except by your choice. Okay, that is in your hand. That writing the except block is in your hand, but writing this try block is not in your hand. So that comes exception comes at runtime. Okay, like carrying umbrella is in your hand, but whether it will get rain or not, it is not in your hand. It's an exception. Exceptions will come, like it can come or it may not come, but you should must have an handler always. Even though the exception does not come, you may have an handler. Yeah, we cannot use one or more, but generally it comes. Before we wrote zero division error first in except block, but in try block it was second. So the order does not matter. Yes, yes, Aditi. Order does not matter. Whenever the line gets exception, that exception will be taken care, and we should make sure that remaining things will not get executed. Okay, thank you. Now I will go and teach you what is meant by with statement. Listen very carefully now. What is meant by with statement now? Okay, so I will write this in with statement. I will remove all these things. I'll remove all these things. Okay, and zero division error, finally, and everything, even closing. Okay, I will print this thing. I'll print this thing. Now you see, I will write these things now. I will write these things. Okay. Now, how to open a file? There is one more way to open a file with using with statement. I can say open with open as file reference, with open as a file reference, and I will write all these things inside that. Okay, all these things I will write inside that. All these things inside that. So this will be outside now. Okay, first of all, I'll comment this exception first to show you what happens if the exception does not come. What happens if the exception does not come? My intention is whether the file is getting closed or not. Okay, what do you think the output of this program? What do you think the output of this program? With open ABC for the read purpose or write purpose, whatever. Then I'm opening with the help of file reference before exception or whatever gets printed. Okay, and we come out of this thing, and will this be executed or not? If yes, what will be the output? Anybody? Yes, you can also use one except block for handling multiple exceptions, Nitin. Okay. Okay, so Ubul thinks file close will be false. Okay. After exception will get printed and the file will be closed. Aditi, do you think file will be closed? Because I'm not closing it. Do you find any fr.close here? Do you find fr.close? Okay. So now you think that file will not be closed. Okay, Ubul already confirmed that file will not be closed. What about others? What it will print, true or false? No exception in this case now. Don't worry about the exception now. Don't worry about the exception. Whether the file will get closed or not. Whether file will get closed or not. Okay. Nagaraja also thinks that file will not get closed. Okay. No. Okay, fine. So you think that file will not get closed because we are not closing it manually. We didn't use f.close or fr.close, right? So it will not get closed. It will not get closed. But that is a beauty of which statement here, guys. The beauty of that which statement. Yeah, I think it will get closed. Very good, SRK Abhishek. Okay, it will get closed. I think it will be closed with keyword. Yes, that's what the beauty here. That's why I have used with keyword. It is auto closed. Very good, Satyam. It is auto closed now. So when I run this code now, it gets printed that file is closed. I'm not closing it, but it's getting closed. How it's getting closed, that is a beauty of which statement now. Which statement says that whether the exception comes or does not come, I will close the file compulsory automatically. Don't you think it's a much better than before, that you don't have to close manually? Because it's not about closing of the file. Sometimes you will forget to close the file also. That's why Python says that no, I will not depend on you. You give this which statement. So that's why most of the time you will see this syntax for closing the file. So don't get confused. Whenever you see this syntax for closing of the file, it means that they're trying to close the file automatically. They're trying to close the file automatically here. Yes, with is used particularly for closing the file automatically. Very good, Aditi. Thank you, Vishwajit, for making confirm that you understood. Let me check with all of you here that did you all understood importance of closing of the file and using of which statement. Yeah, thank you, Ubul. Thank you, Nitin. Thank you, Satyam. Yeah, thank you, Snehal. Thank you, Prasanti. Yeah, Vamshi, thank you. Abhishek confirms. Okay, what about Snehal, Daljit Singh, yeah, Nagaraja, Aditi, is it clear for you? I hope all your questions got answered. Mahipal, thank you. Udit, what if error comes, then it will not close? It will get closed, Udit. Even though error comes, it will close, but we know that remaining statements will not get executed. That is the only problem. It will get closed. The thing is, once you come out of the with block, it will get closed anyhow, but these statements will not get executed. The file will get closed because we are not, but it will not get printed. Okay. If you want to prove that you write in finally block, it will get printed now. Okay, you write in finally block, it will get printed. Finally block not to close the file this time. Finally block, okay, is to show that whether it is getting printed or not. Whether it is getting printed or not. That's just to show you I'm writing finally block here now. I'm just writing finally block to show you whether it will get executed or not. That's my intention. You see, I will close it. I'm not closing still. You see, before that, I use f dot close in finally, but I'm not closing. Still, you will show that file is getting closed. You see, file is getting closed. Getting my point? And I didn't use f dot close at all, but still my file is getting closed. So even exception comes, the which statement will make sure the file will get closed. Yes. So whatever in within the which statement, it will get printed. Whether the exception come, does not matter. It will definitely get closed automatically. Yes. Now using with is not mandatory, but it will be a good option. If you don't want to close manually David, then use with. But with does not take care of exception handling, guys. I didn't say that with will handle the exception. With will make sure the closing of the file. Because our topic was started as closing of the file. Okay, you open the file, you perform read and write operation, then finally you will close the file now. So when you close the file, these two things may happen, exception may come. So I will just told you how to handle that exception. We can write if you want. You can write except and all inside that with statement, but that is not our intention, is not about handling the exception here, Satyam. Our intention is whether the file is getting closed automatically or not. That was our intention. Okay, understood everyone? So I hope this is very much clear for dealing with text files now, because these are the very common operation for any file now. Okay, so tomorrow, from tomorrow, the things will be very interesting, because we are going to start. Tomorrow we will be reading other category of files. Like we will be learning CSV file, and we will be learning how to deal with JSON file. So things will become little complicated, but it is so interesting that you will never feel it's complicated, and you will be getting a real taste of data science tomorrow. Okay, so if you wanted to see what is actual job of data science, data analyst, okay, or data scientist, okay, attend session. You will get the clarity about, okay, what is exactly the real taste of data scientist, that you will get tomorrow. Okay, because we're going to start with CSV file, JSON file, and everything. Yeah, thank you, Satyam. Okay, so good to see that. But one thing is that actually I have planned this. Generally, these are the extra things, like because teaching you all the prerequisite for data science, okay, or web development and all, because they need like if I can take 2 hour session, I can deal with that. Like for example, after covering this files concept, when I teach you how to deal with CSV file, how to deal with that. So obviously, Vishwajit, we are going to switch to Anaconda from now. From now, Anaconda will be the better one than PyCharm. Till now, PyCharm is okay for dealing such kind of thing, but now we are going to get a real taste of data science. Data science. So for data science, Anaconda Jupyter Notebook is a good one actually. Now from tomorrow, we are going to use Jupyter Notebook. If you don't have it, let's get installed so that we can start using that Jupyter Notebook. Okay. So that's what I told you. When we start the data science concept, the best tool or best IDE we have for data science is Jupyter Notebook. Actually, not only for data science, it's a good IDE, but I told you we will be exploring all the IDEs, so we'll be using it. So this is one thing I would like to tell you. And second thing is we will be dealing these two topics on the weekends, guys. Once we complete with the CSV file, JSON file and all, okay, once we deal with all these files, okay, uh, clear all confusion, Vishwajit. Sorry, I didn't get you. Is that a question or your answer? Is that your answer, so that I can make you clarify? Okay, is that answer? So that's thank you. Okay, thank you. So that's what we will be doing now. Uh, yeah, that's what Aditi. This program is not about handling the exception. That's what. This program is not about the handling exception. This I wrote try and final is not required for this program. I still wrote it to show you whether it is getting closed or not, just to show you. Otherwise, this is not required actually. This is all not required. Okay, this is all not required, sorry. If the exception does not come, this is all not required. If the exception comes, then you have to handle, you know about it, right? You know about it. So we'll write this. This is not required at all. Only I wrote that because exception is coming. So that's why. But basically, which statement is used for closing of the file, not to handle the exception, guys. Which statement is not to handle the exception, is just to close the file. Okay, and so this Saturday, we will have a session on this thing, like dealing with some exception, like sorry, we will be taking care of prerequisite for data science. Okay, prerequisite for data science, that is a thing. And next Saturday we're going to deal with the thing called web designing. So Saturdays will have 2-hour session, so where we will be taking. So most probably, yeah, not exactly AIML Satyam, because this course is not for AIML, but prerequisite for AIML, I can say. Okay, prerequisite for AIML. So we are almost about to end the things. So those sessions, like it will be like very important, because those sessions will give you that what after Python. So that's what I wanted to conclude now for the people, like what after Python. So even some people wanted to go for competitive programming, can contact me. I will help you out how to use Python for competitive programming, because there are some things you may get face problem with Python with competitive programming. I can help you out. Like if you want to go for data science, then what is the things to be take care? You're going to learn data science in detail? No, sorry, because this course, we have a separate course for data science, but I think whatever I will give you prerequisite, that will be very useful for learning. You can learn yourself, that I can give you a guarantee. But data science is a very big concept of it. You have mathematics into that. We have to teach machine learning algorithm, AI stuff. So it will be very important. That's what Mahipal. All these things we can cover as an extra things. Okay. Python is again a very vast, like multi-threading and all. We can, yeah. Yeah, that's what Aditi. I can help you out, like how to deal with competitive programming and all. Okay, Snehal, that I will do. That's what NumPy and Pandas are about prerequisite for data science now. This Saturday we are going to do that. Saturday or Sunday, I'm not sure, but at least this week we'll have on Sunday, but next week onwards we'll have on Saturday. Is that okay, guys? Okay. Okay, so that's what. So NumPy and Pandas will be the topic for this Sunday. So please don't miss. NumPy and Pandas will be the topic for this Sunday. Okay, it's very important, because when you say Python, the next question, if you go for an interview, the next question comes, do you know NumPy and Pandas are? That will be the next question. That will be the next question always. Timing is same, but it will be extra. I hope it's okay for everyone on Sunday. Fine, right? This week. Next week onwards, we'll have Saturday. Only this week, we'll just have it on Sunday. Same time, 7 o'clock we'll start. But end time, I think we can take some extra session, because that topic is lengthy. I think it will be good if we have a complete session on that topic. Start and conclude. That will be the best way. So you will learn completely that day you dedicate to that topic. And the next week you will be completely learning those concepts, enhancing those concepts. Anyhow, I will make sure that I will guide you like how to enhance your knowledge on that area. Like once we're done with website development, suppose we develop a small website, then your job is to work on that and come up with a big website. Okay, but because it's a course in itself, so I cannot teach you how HTML works, how CSS works, how JavaScript works. Okay, that thing I cannot teach you, because that's not the part. It's a different course actually called full stack web development. So if you already have a knowledge, it's good. But if not, little have a quick review in W3 schools about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Not about this Sunday, next week. For next week, if you can get ready with these things. Yeah, definitely, Snehal. I will definitely do that programming paradigm. That kind of revision, I will do it. Don't worry. But I'm talking about the extra topics have to be covered. So we will plan like multi-threading. Okay, all these things we'll try to cover that on weekends. Yeah, Krishna, I will do that. Okay, I will do that. Snehal, thank you. So thank you everyone. This is all for today. We'll take a leave now. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.